really like the way the light spirit's cry sounds. Like, it just sounds so ethereal and otherworldly. Like, that's one of the things I appreciate about this game is it does the creepy atmosphere well, and I kind of like creepy things. That's just who I am. Don't really like this though. Like, again, the collecting tears of light thing is blatant padding. Even if it is a lot more fun to play than Werehog, which is the closest comparison I can make, because the main character turns into a wolf-like being. And yeah, in the HD version of the game, well, you don't have to collect as many of these. In fact, you only have to collect, like, you only have to collect 12 for each province, not 16. So, for example, in Eldon, there's this one tier of light you can get, like, after the bomb shop one. Like, not the one in the bomb shop, but the one in its warehouse. The tier of light up the stairs, the one at the highest elevation of Kakariko Village, you don't have to get it at all in the HD version. So, I think it's more convenient, but still padding, like it's still there. They could have easily just removed it from the game entirely. But I guess they wanted to stay true to the original. Why was he able to see them? Well, I guess, like, they can see the Shadow Beast, and I guess they're the same type of creature. But the thing is that Link, like, well, he also needs the senses to see the spirits, so never mind. Something I haven't talked about yet is the camera system. Now, I wanted to believe that the camera was actually improved in this game. I didn't really remember having any camera trouble when I thought about this game, but going back to this, there are some problems. I noticed after a long time of playing that the camera is too low to the ground. Like, Link is taller than Wind Waker Link, but they didn't make the camera view be from a higher point to compensate. And sometimes this means that you can't see things that you need to see, and the camera doesn't always show you everything you need to see. It's hard to see ahead and still pan around, because the camera only moves up and down at large increments. It's kind of like Super Mario 64 in that sense. Like, it's not like you can smoothly keep on holding the camera stick down, and the camera will just keep on moving in a direction. It's more like you press down on the camera stick, and the camera, it ends up immediately going to this new camera view, where it's not really showing you much of what's on the horizon ahead of you. Compare this to Wind Waker, where its camera system was a lot better. Like, you never had to worry about, like, I'm walking around a field, I want to see more of what's ahead of me. Oh, I can't really do that, because I try to press down on the camera stick, and now I can't see as much of what's on the horizon, because what's on the horizon now is just more of the field. It's like they have the same camera view from Sonic 06 that's trying to create the illusion that you're running faster by having the camera aimed at the ground. I don't see why they decided to make that change. Obviously, pressing up on the camera stick gives you a first-person perspective. The annoying thing is that you can actually talk to NPCs in that first-person perspective, even though you don't want to, which I'll show off a while later. But by far the biggest problem is that the camera doesn't always show you what you need, especially when what you need is above you. And sometimes there are fixed camera angles. Like, this game actually makes use of fixed camera angles, and it's especially noticeable in a certain part of Hyrule, which is entirely fixed camera angles. It feels really glaring because they never did that at any other point in the game. It just feels very arbitrary. So altogether, there's a pretty worse camera. Although it's hard to notice when you first start playing the game, because it's not like you have a problem in Wind Waker. It's not like you have the Wind Waker problem where you enter a building and the camera starts out facing Link's face, so you can't see what's ahead of you, and you have to press L to center the camera behind you, or move the camera around. In this game, they know how to handle the camera right for the most part when you're playing casually. But there are things, like sometimes you can't always see what's ahead of you very well. I don't get what this fog is supposed to be. I guess Twilight works in mysterious ways because I can't figure out why they would make fog appear. Like, I've heard a theory that the Twilight just creates a snapshot and then makes time pass. So for example, water becomes ice because the water stops flowing and thus it becomes solid, and thus it becomes ice. Even though, wouldn't it just keep on flowing then? I mean, it's not like that makes it colder, but for some reason it does. Another thing that the sword combat added in this game was the ability to hold B while walking to charge a spin attack a lot more conveniently. This means that you're actually going to bother charging the spin attack instead of just using the quick one. It's very useful for bosses. Although the only thing is you can't you can't roll constantly and charge the spin attack while moving at the same time, for obvious reasons. So unfortunately, you're going to be moving slowly while walking ahead to and charging the spin attack. The interesting thing about this area, this fight, is that glitchers can actually use Midna's attack on a certain wall to get up on that wall and make their way to the Master Sword early. Unfortunately, getting the early Master Sword isn't a very good idea unless you're very well versed in and very well skilled at a whole bunch of different complicated glitches that most people would not want to have to do. Like, the problem is that this game really does not like you sequence breaking it. It's just like with Wind Waker. Like, on the other hand, this game does like to assume that you did stuff already, but the problem is that getting the early Master Sword does stuff like make it impossible to even get into the second dungeon because there's an invisible wall that's created. So you have to make sure that you're able to beat the game without the bow. You have to... You also can't get the Zora armor at all. So you basically have to rely on this unreliable glitch where you refill your air meter underwater. It involves water bombs and the iron boots and swimming with them. I wasn't really able to pull it off. Maybe it's only a Wii exclusive glitch. But yeah, the early Master Sword for most people is basically a trap. It's an unwinnable situation. It is very possible to beat the game with it, and that's what speedrunners do. But most people are not going to know how to beat the game after basically breaking it by getting the Master Sword too early and locking themselves out of getting certain items and stuff. The cool thing though is that being able to turn to a wolf like that early in the game means that you can activate early game cutscenes as the wrong form of Link, and Link's model horribly messes up when that happens. Like, it's the thing of nightmares when Link's model actually bends down and tries to look like a wolf. It looks really messed up, and like the limbs and stuff aren't connected to each other properly. His glove is used as the wolf's snout. It's the stuff of nightmares. And it happens for things as minor as the cutscene that happens when a bridge is about to burn down. Yeah, I guess I'm not gonna care too much about spoiling this game then. But yeah, Link just suddenly has the green tunic because it's tradition. It feels less justified than Wind Waker, where at least there was some sort of excuse where people wanted to dress up their boys as the hero of time as a tradition. Link's probably looking at his hand like, huh, I still smell like a wolf. That's the only explanation I can think of for why he decided to admire his glove like that. A lot of the times when Midna pops up, as snarky as her dialogue is, she generally just states the obvious just as badly as Navi does. Like, she doesn't give very useful hints. Granted, I don't remember my first playthrough of the game, and I don't remember, like, actually pressing Z to give her hints, to get her hints. Like, that's another thing. Because they map Midna to the Z button, a huge downgrade for Twilight Princess was that you can't map an item to the Z button anymore. And guess what the HD version didn't do? I don't know why you can't just have Midna mapped to, like, left on the control pad. Left isn't doing anything. Like, you press up and you can bring up the items menu, which is kind of unique in that it still lets you see what you normally see. It's not like a separate inventory screen. And I think if you hold down a shoulder button and move in the inventory screen, you can skip ahead across it. So it's pretty inventive in that sense. And I think the items are rearranged in their locations a tiny bit when you get more and more items. This is blatant padding. This is the most blatant example of padding in the entire game, bar none. Because look at this. Later on I'm going to get through this area again, unnecessarily. Well, maybe not unnecessarily. But you can get through this area a lot faster without the stupid monkey wasting your time. He's going through the area so slowly. And what's also annoying is that, like, I want to get the chest, but the purple fog is still blocking the way. Like, his shaking of the lantern doesn't even clear that much fog. I don't know why you have to rely on this guy. Well, I guess girl. Like why can't you just go through the area after Midna tells you that you can use the lantern for that? I mean, I don't think it's very intuitive that, like, why can the lantern of all things clear away the fog? It seems really stupid. But at the very least, if Midna told you that you could do it, it would be fine. The fact that they force you to spend such a huge amount of time in one small area for no reason just makes it clear that they were out of ideas when it came to more padding between getting back to the human form and getting to the first dungeon. It's like 3 Zelda games feel the need to have a whole bunch of padding between dungeons. Like, forcing you to do a whole bunch of stuff before getting to each dungeon. And I didn't mind it in Minish Cap too much, but it just feels very draining in Twilight Princess. Also, she'll get scared by enemies and you have to defeat the enemies and wait for even longer. It's just like I could have gotten through here a lot faster by myself. It's just a blatant example of padding. And what's also annoying is that if you don't have lantern oil at this point, then, well, the lantern is out of oil now, so you won't be able to get back. Well, never mind. There's actually a shop right after this that sells lantern oil and a red potion. So, I guess there's that. The shop is actually really cool. It's a very unique concept for a Zelda game. Because you can choose exactly how much money you want to pay him. And you can even choose to not pay him at all, in which case you'll get attacked every time you try to go into the shop afterwards. And you can choose to pay him like 1 rupee. And while he will call you stingy and cheap the next time you go in there, you'll otherwise get away with it just fine. I believe you can make him attack the monsters if they get close to him, but the game's very likely to freeze if that happens for some reason. But yeah, I take full advantage of the shop because, well, I don't want to spend money if I don't have to. Although the problem with this game, like with many other Zelda games, is that there aren't very many money sinks. So later on, when you talk to him, he complains about how his master got mad at him for letting a thief steal something. But that was the only time I ever stole from him, and even then, I paid him 1 rupee immediately afterwards. And that in the game's coding causes him to think that you're not a thief. Even though you're still technically a thief, because either way you're still creating the same problem for the shop. Like, you're still cheating them out of money, now they have to spend money to get more of that oil that you just got without earning anything back in return, because you only paid them 1 rupee. But yeah, like, he complains about how his master got mad at him for letting a thief steal stuff, when technically Link didn't not pay him at all. This is actually the hero of time. This was even confirmed in Hyrule Historia, which is basically a book showing off the Zelda timeline. I wonder if they'll ever release another of those. Cause like are they just going to never tell us when Breath of the Wild takes place, for example? But yeah, this is basically the hero of time passing on his, like, what he learned about sword fighting to the next generation. It's never explicitly confirmed whether Link is descended from him or not. I mean, I guess it would make sense if the hero of time married Madeline, and so his descendant was a goat herder. Like, it's made pretty obvious from the layout of Twilight Princess that it's basically the same Hyrule as Ocarina of Time. But yeah, this is a blow that you should have been able to have in the first place. I mean, it does make it a little more satisfying when you're finally able to use it, but still, every 3D Zelda game should have had this. You have no idea how boring and awkward it is, constantly having to wait for an enemy to get up after you knock it down. The awkward thing about the ending blow, though, is that, well, look at where exactly Link's sword lands when he does it. It's always kind of cringeworthy where exactly it lands. Doesn't matter whether it's this guy, a Bublin. It always seems to be, he's fighting dirt, you know? But whatever works.